Hey, we are live with College Talk Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Pearl.
Welcome, Andy. Welcome, everybody.
Pearl Lockwood, Andy Lockwood here on the College Success for Less page. And welcome to College Talk Tuesday, which we give every Tuesday at our new time slot, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're talking about all things college, and we are in the actual last day of January. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of what's happening for high school seniors, what's happening for juniors, and even younger people. We're going to talk about financial aid and scholarships because there's a lot of that action right now. And it's been kind of an exciting time for seniors because there are still plenty of schools results flooding in, I should say. And we're hearing mostly good news from our clients. I think we just heard about Ashley, who was 6 for 6.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of good feedback like that too. So that part's fun. But the whole process, of course, is very confusing. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can deal with that confusion, what to look for, and what not to get too hung up on. Let's start specifically with all the emails and stuff that are going out with financial aid. But if you are just joining us, welcome to College Talk Tuesday. Please, if you have any questions, Pearl's going to be eyeballing chat. The comment section. So just post them in there. And if you're not watching this live, just post them in there. And generally, we pick them up within a day or two. So I know there's been a lot of emails that are freaking clients out, and this is one of these things we talk about like almost all the time. But I think it bears repeating because we're still, you're still getting emails about missing things.
Yes.
Emails from financial aid offices that are missing tax returns or IDocs or
it could be anything from the FAFSA itself or parts of financial aid. So number one, the first thing I want to say is, strangely and unfortunately, it is rather routine that all of the schools, and really there's not one guilty culprit over another, there are many, they're all guilty of it, will send out an email or you'll get an email or some kind of update on the school's portal that some part of either your application, but often at this point in the year, it would be something is missing from your financial aid packet. Now, you can look and they're saying, let's say it's the FAFSA, and you know that you have filed the FAFSA already. You have a confirmation from the Department of Education email. You have a student aid report which connects to every FAFSA submission you did. So if you did 4 revisions to your FAFSA, you can print out a SAR as evidence or receipt of that particular submission. Okay, weeds. I'm down in the weeds.
Well, you're using this lingo. So you mentioned student aid report. You mentioned SAR. They're the same things.
Yes.
But
acronym.
Before you, I guess the point is that before you blindly accept what is being told, go ahead and take a breath.
Take a breath.
Look through your stuff.
Don't panic.
Yeah.
And don't assume it's so. If you know you've done these things and you have whatever. In the FAFSA, the case would be obviously the student aid report, the confirmation email, knowing it had been submitted to a particular school, or in the CSS profile, you can always print out and generate what is termed their acknowledgement, and that's proof, again, or receipt. And then if it is something that is part of, let's say, IDoc or your tax return, if the school's asking for it and you know you've already sent, you can call. I recommend you call the financial aid office to say, you say, hey, here, I've submitted the FAFSA on such and such a date. I have the student aid report as proof. Often at that point when you speak to a human being, maybe, you will say, oh, disregarded, it crossed in the mail, or it was a blast, it went to everybody, what have you. But point is, don't panic, don't assume that you're screwed, it's going to be okay. If you know, of course, that you have complied and done these things. On the other hand, and by the same token, there are so many dates to be aware of that are juggling. There is no real uniformity as between the schools in terms of how they send out awards, how they ask, the dates that they want the evidence. When's the FAFSA due? It's due when the school you're applying to says so. And if you're applying early action or early decision, it could be one deadline. And that deadline may or may not be the application deadline. So it's very important to be very familiar with the schools you're applying and their own rules, because unfortunately, as I said, there is no uniformity in this.
Right, and that confusion is very understandable. So if you're confused and you don't know exactly what's going on, remember, chances are anything you're panicked by is not a life or death situation, and you either have the information, or if you're working with us, Pearl has the information. Just just relax, because there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown out there that's not necessarily geared specifically toward you, although it appears that way. It's just like a system generated type of thing. So if you send something in, like a tax return, and through IDocs, which is one way that schools collect tax returns, and they say they didn't get it, but you have proof that you sent it, don't panic. Just calmly, let the financial aid office know that.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Yes, fair enough. You brought up IDoc and something missing. I had an interesting question posed to me this week related to IDoc. We had just filed the CSS profile on someone's behalf, and when you submit a CSS profile, if a school that is requiring that CSS profile is also a school that uses IDoc, which is a vehicle through which you can upload your tax information and other documents that each school has its own documents that it will require of you. Again, no uniformity. It will automatically, when you submit your CSS profile, generate this IDoc email, and thus the portal through which you would file your tax documents to the schools that participate in IDoc. So I had to give all that background because someone had said, "Oh, we got this IDoc email. Does that mean we're getting in?" So, unfortunately, I didn't want to be the bearer of not one way or the other. When you submit the CSS profile, you automatically get this IDoc email. Period. It has no bearing whatsoever on the admission decision. So, if that was someone's question, it could be someone else's question.
Yeah, and I think generally what schools try to only request financial aid information from applicants that they are going to admit, but it doesn't necessarily mean that way. Mean that exactly.
That is what you're talking about. Is if they were going to then follow up and from the school's website and email, that could be read into perhaps as an indication of whether or not, or that you're being certainly heavily considered for admission. But with the normal triggered emails from the submission of the FAFSA and the submission of the CSS profile, it's just an automatic thing that is going to be spit out once that happens, but that's not from the school.
And likewise, we have a client right now, a few clients going through the appeal process and trying to improve financial aid awards, and that can be kind of rigorous and time-consuming. And we have one in particular. I don't know if you saw the email. It was sent this morning, so you may not have gotten to it yet. But it was about they're appealing to a certain prestigious Northeast school, and the school is saying, okay, well, in order for us to consider your appeal, what we need to do is give you this information to fill out the sheet, and you've got to get back to us. It's kind of a pain, very involved information, and our client was like, well, why are they wasting our time if we, if we're not going to qualify for anything? And the answer is that they have a process, they have a certain procedure. Sometimes they're, I guess, thinking that they're going to be audited by the Department of Ed, so they've got to paper all their files and go through this procedure. And it's not necessarily a value judgment to you whether you're going to qualify or not. I think in this client's case, she's probably not going to qualify because they earn too much income. So no matter what special circumstances we try to demonstrate, she's probably not going to prevail. But every year we have surprises. So it's always worth trying to negotiate or to appeal an award. And that's sort of out of the scope of today's show. But that is what's happening right now. is a lot of financial aid awards are coming in, or people are awaiting them anxiously, and sometimes they're kind of disappointed. But the good news is that colleges, because their businesses don't always give their highest and best offers, and you might be able to improve those offers.
Absolutely. And of course, if it is a school that has merit aid to give as well as need-based aid, if you don't quite, but you've now exercised a compelling, and you've let the school know that they're your number one choice, and they'd like, it to work out.
I think it's actually easier to negotiate merit than need-based aid.
Then if they're, right, I was going to say, they may find the room for you that way, in a merit vehicle.
Yeah, sure. There's who cares what they call it,
exactly.
Right? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about information for juniors. We have a webinar coming up tomorrow night for specifically, this is something a little different, specifically for kids who are interested in pre-med, in medical research, and or technology. And I'm interviewing a guy who's behind a lot of those. It's kind of funny. You know how there's all these solicitations about these honor societies and summer programs and all that. And I'm usually one of the first ones to say, yeah, they're all BS. They're all kind of paid to play.
Right.
Well, the gentleman I'm interviewing has different, what he calls congresses that happen up in Boston over the summer. And they are they're legitimate because he's got these, like, everyone speaking is like a Nobel Prize winner or something. It's like, it's crazy. That's one of the things I'm going to ask him. Is like, how do you get these people to talk? And he's very selective about whom he offers these to. So if you have a kid who has good grades and is at least a junior, I think that's who he mails to, and you might have gotten something from the Congress of pre-med or something, or the Congress of Technology. I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's you're going to want to tune into it. It's tomorrow night on Wednesday, and you'll if you can't find it on our website, just post me a comment right here on the Facebook page, and I'll get the link out. I'm going to start promoting it again. We already have about 78 people who signed up for it, which is pretty good because we've never tried something like this before. But what my point is that if you have a junior right now,
every time.
Yeah. Why do you do that?
Okay. We'll talk about it after.
I don't want to talk about it. Just don't do it. Okay. Distracting. Let's start over. Welcome to College Talk Tuesday. All right. If you are joining us just now, Pearl and Andy Lockwood, College Talk Tuesday, Lockwood College Consulting. Still us. Okay. Any questions? Pop them in comments.
Please.
I was talking about for juniors, even though it's still cold out in most parts of the country, and you're not really thinking about the summer. This is a really good time to lock down summer, or at least start thinking about what you're going to be doing this summer in terms of figuring out how you're going to stand out, how you're going to do something meaningful that you're going to enjoy, but also is going to help you get into college. So that's part of what I'm talking about in this webinar tomorrow night with Richard Rossi. But in addition to that, just anyone who's maybe you're not a future medical doctor, medical scientist, or technologist, you should be thinking about what you can do that is atypical, that's going to be something that you'll like doing, and is going to help you get in. Now, I just want to say this very clearly because we get this question a lot. If you go to the Harvard summer something or other, it does not mean you have an extra edge at getting into Harvard or Brown or wherever these programs are held. It does show that you are interested in improving yourself and learning, which is the most important thing. But some things are more prestigious than others and more legitimate than others, and you just have to have a skeptical and wary eye, not only on all the brochures that are coming, possibly marketing stuff, but also let's face it, your wallet and your checkbook. Okay, what else? We have a couple things just calendar-wise to talk about. So the deadlines to register for each test. So actually I have a piece of paper right here. So the standardized tests, the ACT and the SAT, are offered not every month, but practically every month from September through June. So we are finishing up January today. So February, the ACT is going to be given. It's too late to register for that. But if you were thinking about the SAT, the next date for that is March, and you might be close to the deadline right now of getting in or not paying a late fee for the March SAT. And then there's an April ACT, there's also a May SAT. So you should be thinking about your testing, particularly if you're a junior, because the big goal should be to get your testing done out of the way completely by the time you are done with your junior year. That's not what most people do, but I would try to take whatever test you decide that you're good with, that you're comfortable with, take that at least twice in your junior year, and then, if you have to take it again as a senior, that's not great, but you'll be avoiding a couple of things if you finish up in your junior year. Number one is if you have to take it again as a senior, as like a Hail Mary, you're going to feel like you have all this pressure on you, and you're not going to perform as well. And
not to mention the unfortunate occurrence this year where the fall ACT, I believe my alma mater, Roslyn High School, lost, I believe, 53 ACTs.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that got resolved, but we have clients where that was their Hail Mary and that was their fall of their senior year.
Is Larry is he on today? Is he one of them?
I'm not sure. He is one of the 53. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So we've now figured out there was 4 of our actual clients who took that test, and I heard about 2 other kids also. So I don't know if it's us, but yeah, there are things that can happen that out of your control. So that's certainly one of them. I wouldn't even say that's rare. I mean, stuff like that happens because anytime you have proctors or human intervention, there's the possibility for some sort of screw up. I've heard about marching bands practicing outside the window of the testing room. I've heard about the proctor watching YouTube videos with no headphones at the front, distracting all the kids. So stuff can happen. So you need to really do your best to get it out of your way, so you leave nothing to chance in your senior year.
And plus, the other big reason is you the junior student, the summer before your senior year, you have other tasks that you're going to need to be focused on, and at that point,
not to mention fall.
And the fall, of course. That application process itself is rigorous. So to be contending with that process and maximizing your effort on an SAT, ACT, if you can avoid doing and your regular and your honors and your this and your that, if you can manage not doing 2 of those very, very important things at the same time, it's all about time management. As Andy said, try to get those tests out of the way, a few of them in that junior year.
At least 2.
So if you're a sophomore, if you're a parent of a sophomore, we're in that spring semester now. You should be thinking in terms of SAT planning this spring, this summer, so that you can take that fall junior year first test out of the gate. And then you will for sure have 2 opportunities at least in that junior year to get those exams under your belt.
Yeah, you might be able to take 3, 1 in the fall and 2 in the spring.
Exactly.
But yeah, Pearl's right.
Avoiding having the jam up in the senior year.
The best time to start your prep is, like you said, the summer, right, going into your junior year. We know plenty of people who start earlier. I kind of have mixed feelings about that. We have a tutor that we work with also, so if any of you are interested in that, that information, she's local, but she also does Skype. But I still think that if you start in your summer of before your senior year, you're in good shape. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the point is that one of the biggest problems in this whole process is time management, like Pearl said, and you run out of it quicker than you think you will. So there's always distractions. There's always we had a couple of kids cancel. That's Arnold, our dog, by the way. That wasn't a bodily sound from either one of us.
No. We are blaming the dog.
He comes in like every Tuesday when we do this. He comes into our little studio. No matter which studio we're in, by the way.
He's my coworker.
He's more my coworker. The other dog is yours.
That's true.
Yeah, please. Anyway, so the Super Bowl is this Sunday. I'm predicting the Pats, by the way. But kids aren't taking their taking advantage of tutoring because of the Super Bowl this Sunday. Okay, fine, I get it. But the Super Bowl starts at 6:30. There's probably some time before that to squeeze in an hour and a half or something to do.
They got to tape ankles. They got to
stretch the hammies.
Stretch the hammies.
Yeah. So anyway, so don't let stuff sneak up on you. Likewise, if you have a junior, this is a great time to book college visits, because there is February break, President's Day. It might be a little late to book some tours, truthfully, but there's also April break to be thinking about. And in both cases, what we always recommend is not just going on the tours and seeing all the new Starbucks and Chick-fil-A's that are being built. and the the aquatic centers, but also you should seriously think about whatever you're going to be majoring in. Check out the department head, sit down with him and ask questions about about how to be successful as a person majoring in whatever it is, history. Tell me who did the best in terms of getting jobs last year, and what would you advise someone like me to model their behavior, or who did the worst? How do I avoid those mistakes? Or if you maybe go to the career centers of these colleges and find out what companies do you expect to recruit on campus, which of your kids did the best last year in terms of getting jobs, and how do they make themselves the most marketable. I think if you go to department heads and career centers and maybe even talk to upperclassmen who are majoring in the disciplines or areas that you're thinking about majoring in, you're going to get much more valuable information about what it could be like for you as a student to attend there, and what you'll get out of it way more than if you're just going on all these tours, which are just sales pitches.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the other reason to start early in the game with all of this, again, with having time management on your side, I don't know, but I'll say it in a positive, and then I'll explain how we've seen it in the negative. But you want to also, by the time your the summer between your junior and senior year, which we find the optimal time to be doing your applications, knowing what schools you are applying to, and more importantly, knowing that the schools you are applying to are the right schools for you. Yes, you haven't started your senior year, but at that point you have your GPA. If you've taken your 2 or 3 tries at the ACT, SAT in that junior year, at that point you really know where you fall. And if
realistically,
well, that's the other piece. Realistically, unfortunately or fortunately, we have witnessed, let's say, we offer lots of services, A through Z and everything in between with respect to college planning. With that, some people have only retained us or learned of our services by the time their kid was a senior, and they already applied to school, and can you do our financial aid forms? Okay, sure. But they've picked a list. We have no sense of what their GPA, what the scores, what anything. We're just basically filling out the financial aid forms. And sadly, we had a really nice family, a really nice girl, had what we call admissions Armageddon. Yeah, see, even Gronk's sad. It was sad.
Gronk.
Pats. We call admissions Armageddon. This poor girl did not get into any school that she had applied to.
Really?
Really. This we learned
no
in,
touching
let's say,
on College Talk Tuesday.
I think by like February, March, we had learned that she did not get last year. Did not get in anywhere.
I'm trying to remember who that was.
And then she had to Hail Mary a few more schools. So I don't know what ounce of research she had done with those last few schools. Her child is now attending one of those schools. But that's not how you want to do it.
All right, let me throw in my version of that story too, because we hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I remember last year.
That's avoidable.
It's all avoidable if you're realistic, but you need a few tools. You need to use some tools in your toolkit. So I remember, and this happens a lot, but I remember specifically a client who said something like, "Hey, we're driving up to see blah blah blah, and we're thinking about swinging by such and such school and such and such school. I'm just kind of curious, like how much these are going to cost and whether we're eligible for aid at any of these schools." And he was on the road. So I asked a few questions, and I said, well, by the way, those are full price schools. You're not gonna really receive any significant financial assistance, and on top of that, I think your chances of getting into each of these schools is like very, very slim. So they had just wasted the 4-hour drive to go see these schools, and I think what happens is very often is that the parents get the kids' hopes up, or the kids get their own hopes up, but they're setting their sights on schools that are really not realistic. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't ever apply to a reach school.
No.
But what I am saying is if you're applying to 12 schools, for example, 2-3 max should be pretty hard to get into. You want the vast majority, 75% of the schools on your list, 80% to be schools that you're going to get into.
And you have to be careful with how you're judging yourself against the statistics that are put out there. We've talked often about early admissions decisions, or early decisions admissions, and that statistic, and how representative, where you should judge yourself against that statistic should not be smack in the middle or as against it as is, because 2/3 of those admitted, right? Is it 2/3 that are admitted of that early decision population are done so for non-academic reasons that you know nothing about in terms of, it's could be a recruited athlete, could be a recruited musician, it could be a development case, which
means what?
Which means that they have that they believe it to be a future donor or a donor family. They have tremendous wealth, and
could be someone from Saudi Arabia.
It could be. It
Not
certainly
from
can
Syria. Not from Syria.
Not today.
Yeah.
Right. But we're not going there.
It's Facebook. We can talk about that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So the actual college point, not the annoying, obnoxious point, is that it's very easy to get misled by statistics, particularly
and mail. Direct mail,
marketing,
right?
But if you look at Naviance, or you sit down with your college your guidance counselor or something, if you even do that in high school, and they say, okay, well, based on your grades and your scores, you have a good shot at getting in. What that ignores is what Pearl just was talking about, is that if you're not in one of these special categories, and there's about 6 of them, we just named about 3 of them, then your chances of getting in are actually a lot harder than the statistics actually say. So that's why it's very easy to get this false sense of security and comfort that you have a good shot at getting into these schools, when in reality the admissions people are considering a whole lot of stuff that Naviance does not consider, and frankly that's why we don't rely on Naviance ourselves when we coach kids. So that's it in a nutshell. So anyway, it's very important to be realistic. It's very important to be strategic also about this whole process, about where you're, and very important to be good at time management.
Planning.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So we covered a lot of stuff today. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments if you're not watching this live. And one of the things I covered, again, just a little plug, I'm going to be posting this later, is we're having this webinar that's geared specifically, it's tomorrow night, Wednesday, geared specifically toward kids who are interested in pre-med, in medical research, and or technology. It's sort of a roadmap for how to succeed in those majors, how to create a network, how to get into these schools. My guest is going to be talking about, I'm going to be asking him about stuff on his website, including how to come up with money, how to come up with scholarships and other overlooked sources of aid for it. So that's tomorrow night on Wednesday. Don't worry, I'll promote it if you're on our email list. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, we covered financial aid, we covered college visits, we covered how to choose colleges, we covered a lot of stuff. So if you have any questions, just pop them right here in comments, or just you can contact us. Our contact information is right here on this page. Are we through?
We are.
All right, so we're going to wrap up College Talk Tuesday.
Till next Tuesday.
Till next Tuesday, exactly, because it is on Tuesdays.
Yes. College Talk Tuesdays.
Yeah. So we'll be back for Season 2, Episode 3 next week, 11:30 a.m., our new time slot. I'm Andy Lockwood. This is Pearl Lockwood. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.